My dad, who was a border rider by that time, managed to gain around some good money and bought some cars, and he started eventually into the transport business. But we didn't know that the coming in of money would cause some pain that we would never forget.
Welcome to Marvin 256, the pulse of the youth, where reality meets conversation. Get ready for real talk on mental health, life hustles, politics, entertainment, and everything in between. Your platform, your voice, your vibe. Let's move the conversation forward.
Let's move the conversation forward. That's the word. Hey, welcome back to Marvin 256. If you have been here since season 1, thank you so much. Genuinely, you have been with me from the very beginning. You've watched me sit down with young politicians, business women, businessmen, content creators, and many others. We have had real conversations, real stories, and we have built something together. And if you're new here, it is the perfect timing because I'm telling you, we're unpacking season 2 and it's a whole new level. We are rebranding, new energy, and new Marvin. Before I start, allow me to introduce myself that I'm Marvin 256. This is the YouTube channel where you are, and my name is Tumusime Marvin. I welcome you aboard. And today, before I tell you what this season looks like, before I talk about the guests, the topics, the conversations coming your way, allow me, I want to take you back to a few things. I want to talk about myself. I want to tell you the story that I have had as Marvin, why this channel started. This channel started from a point of pain. It didn't just come out of the blue. So join me today. Sit, get something to drink, and let's start our show together. Okay, let me take you back to a young Marvin, the version of me that most people love to be around with at school. I was that guy that was happy, smiling, joyful, full of life, making everyone laugh. The energy in the room, I walked into the community, people knew me. People liked Marvin. I showed up, I participated, I was present. And if you ask anyone who knew Marvin back then, they would tell you Marvin was one of the most joyful people they have ever met. But here is what nobody knew. Behind all of that, I was carrying something really heavy. And I think that is the conversation we never have enough as people, because so many of us, and I mean so many, we are walking around with a smile that is working overtime. You're happy at school, happy in public, happy everywhere you are. Laughing on social media, having fun, making friends laugh, showing up. And then when you go back home, there's a silence that feels unbearable. I know that person because I was that person. And I believe as you are watching this right now, some of you are nodding because you are still that person today. You are smiling, still showing up, still performing, and still doing everything that is really needed. But your soul, your inside still feels empty. So I want to take you back to who I have become today, right? Because this episode is basically for you. I want to give you my story. I'll take you back to way 2001 when I was born. That was Marvin, born in a poor, small family. And in the middle there, the family got some, we can say small money came in. My dad, who was a border rider by that time, managed to gain around some good money and bought some cars. And he started eventually into the transport business. But we didn't know that the coming in of money would cause some pain that we would never forget. You know, this happy me that used to be at school and everything was just we can call it that we wear something on our bodies and pretend that we are happy, but we are not. So early as 2014, I'd finished my P7, and I've grown up. By that time, I was 14. So I started seeing conflicts at home, but I used not to mind about them so much. But you're growing up, you're learning many things. So 2015, I will never forget that year. That's when our mom left home and left me with my siblings and our dad. Reason why my dad had become this dangerous guy at home. He was a person who was on drugs, many things back then, but he had stopped and he had got born again and he was doing well and very fine. But because of the transport business, most of the time these people do a lot of things. They eat, they do drugs to stay awake on the road. They do a lot. So he had relapsed and he had started drinking. The born again guy had gone off like completely. So my mom couldn't stand this guy because at one point I tried to kill my mom and it didn't happen. Because of money, he got another wife outside there and many things were happening. So my mom couldn't hold it. So when my mom left, that's when my life of suffering started. So my dad carried all the pain he had, all the anger, all the annoyance that he had on my mom and put it on me. So from 2, I start my class very well. Mom has left. I'm like, okay, my dad is going to pay for me. But I didn't know that things were going to change. So we had a maid at home. I thought this maid was on my side, but this maid was a snake, or we can say a snitch, who used to take all the information. Me, after talking to my mom, she goes ahead and takes to my dad, because when my dad would ask me, I would say, no, I don't talk to mommy. I'm always busy. I don't. So one day, I mistakenly, because I was the one collecting money from the rentals, I mistakenly told him that I was given this kind of amount of money. I was given like 20, but in putting in the money, it was 15. I don't know what had happened. So it happened. So he comes to school. I remember we're doing a math paper. I'm happy to see my dad at school. I thought he had come to clear our school fees. He calls me in the bursar's office. We talk and he starts telling them, ono mwana mumulaba, sente zange zonna azisindikira mama we. Mbuuza lwaki? Because of the mistake that I had done, of getting money. Nazimuwanga, naziogeranga nyingi ate nentekawo entono. But in actual sense, the tenant had given me that money. That's the man that was there. So I made a mistake. So he slapped me in office there. I had my brother who was at school at that time with me. He picked the money from the wallet. He paid his school fees. He showed me he still had more money and he didn't pay mine. He called me home and he told me, I want you to apologize. I was like, man, I'm not going to apologize. What did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. So we went on. So later, he pays my school fees. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. So we move on. So my life became so bad that every day he used to abuse me. He used to call me how I was a dog. He used to say this word in Luganda, anti olinge mbwa eiganeta. For one who doesn't know this, it means that you're a dog that they send to hunt and brings nothing. Literally meaning that you're stupid. You're like your mom, These words, he used to tell them to me on a daily. He never used to appreciate what I used to do for him, because I used to wash his car. And every time I would wash his car, he would tell me this, that instead of making my car clean, you've made it smell, And you're like, yo, what's wrong with this guy? So I lived in that life. He stopped buying clothes for me when I was in Form 2. So that was a struggle growing up. I had my friend who was called Derek. I would go to their home place. This is where I would get clothes. But also after getting the clothes, their mom would come at the end of the holiday, be like, I need the clothes of my children. So it was a struggle to a point that you even don't have underwears, I reached a point whereby the ones I had, they had, you can say, holes. So I would wear another wear because I want to show that I'm wearing, it has a label up. Kulaga kana akantu kaba kafulumye kana ko wagulu nti ya. I have a boxer inside. Because when I would be in the dormitory, my friends used to ask me, but for you don't remove your uniform. Why? Because we'll have moments where I would go in the dorm, people remove their uniforms, we go for soccer. Me, I would not go because I knew I had a problem. So life was like that, was so bad. I used to cry on a daily basis because of how my dad used to treat me. so badly. Life was so bad for me. He would come at night, wake me up, and says, "Drive me around." Because we're staying in Barra. You drive him the whole night. Tomorrow you have school, and things are that bad. He doesn't care, you know. It was so bad for me. Abuses me, fights me, calls me every sort of bad word. We reached a time whereby me and there was another boy at home. We were used, we knew that when he comes, he's going to tell you, "A dog, you're stupid, you're nothing," as that little boy. So fast forward, I will not take you much into details. Senior 4 reaches. My friends attend their prom. I didn't attend mine because I didn't have the money. I'm like, okay, easy, because my main mission was let me study and finish. But all of those years back, getting school fees used to be a hassle and a tug of war from him. But my siblings used to get it easily. So move on, senior 4, second term. I managed, I convinced him, I got money for that trip. I went for that trip. That's, I think, the only thing I got. Then senior 4, at the end, this is the last term, first week, the school needed its all fees, like total up zonanga bazagala mulundi gumo. So I didn't manage to get the money they wanted. So I go and tell Mzee that I need school fees. He told me the money I'm having is for renewing my driving permit. But hold on. That was the first week. Second week, third week, and you're in senior 4. So close to the last week of doing UNEB, I'm like, what am I going to do? I cannot miss out. So I go and plead with the school. They refuse. I again go back home. I tell him. So what I did, I went to church, because the past years when I used to suffer, church was the only place I used to have fun in. I mean, like peace. School. So it was church and school, not home. Because every time I would go back home, it was pain and suffering from there. You cannot sleep because of your dad. You have to wake up late in the night to open for him the gate and everything. So senior 4, the last week, asked for money from him. He says he doesn't have. He has money for his driving permit. I'm like, okay. So I go to church. I tell them I want to appreciate Whole Spitfire Church in Ibarra. They gave me the school fees, and then he also topped up some little that he had. And I went. I did my senior 4, and I finished. But of course, I went in the last week, and the performance at the end of the day, it cannot be good based on the situation. But to basically highlight for you how my O-level life was from Form 2, Form 3, Form 4. Life was so bad for me, so terrible, that I would cry on a daily basis because of the abuses at home. They used to segregate me. They never used to give me food. At sometimes he had a tendency of buying good things and then taking my siblings into his room. I was taking them there. He would call me and say, "Get these bones and take them to the dog." So what I would do, I would go check in those bones and see what can I get there. If I find some meat, I also eat, So that's how stressing life was for me as a young man at that age. But the climax of everything came in Form 5. When I was going to join Form 5, when Jesus came back, I told my dad, the results are back. I want to go back to Cleveland. So they need admission money. He was like, okay, how much is it? I'm like, I have to first go and get a place and everything. Gave me the 20, I went. They gave me accommodation, which was Hague. But I wasn't okay with the combination because me and math were like this, So after that, I go back, I tell him, when I went back home, I was like, these are the requirements and this is the total amount of money I'm supposed to pay at the end of the day. He was like, hey, okay, we shall talk about it. So weeks to the day of reporting, I tell him I need money to go and do shopping and everything because I was young. Where am I going to get money to do everything for myself? He was like, okay, now what we are going to do? You see your siblings here, because at that time my siblings, one was in Form 3, then the other was in like P7, and the other one was like in P4. He told me, you have to wait for them until they get to the level where you are. I'm like, yeah, because I finished Form 6 in 2018. So by that time, 2019, I was already 18. I'm like, at what time are they going to reach me? So I gave him options. Felt like as if he's going to buy the options. The man refused. The next day I confronted him. I told him the same thing. He was like, you see, Marvin, I have renters here. If you want, actually, I'm giving you an option. Go and marry. Go and bring a wife and put him here. I'm like, yeah, you man. I'm still here. This is what I was saying in my mind, because I wouldn't say these words back to him. He wouldn't allow that. So he tells me, get a wife and marry. At that age, my dream is to go to campus and finish. And all the options branching off, he had refused them. I was like, you go away from me. I felt so bad. So someday he comes back home now. Form 5 has already started. I think 2 weeks now. He comes, he asks me, why is the bulb that was it was in the shade, why isn't it lighting? I'm like, we put it on and I don't know. Again, asked me, I told him, me, I'm not an electrician. I don't know why the bulb is off. So he said, stop, is it the kira wakumanyira? You're not giving me respect. Says, get out of my house. That was the day I felt so bad. It wasn't happening for the first time, by the way. He had chased me several times, because I didn't tell you all of that story. He had chased me several times from the house and everything, but I was used to that. But this day, remember, you've refused to pay for my school fees. You're telling me to marry. You're doing everything, and now you're telling me, get out of my house. I was like, you know what, God, I think this is I'm tired. Why am I suffering like this? I've already done everything. So the bypass is not far away from our home. So I walked, because it was around like 2 in the night. I sloped. The place is so dark and there are a lot of bushes around there, but now they've developed it. But I wasn't scared. So I sloped. I reached the bypass, because that road is always busy at night, because it's late in the night. So what I did, I laid in the middle of the road. I was like, you know what, let me just wait for a car to come and just, end it all, because why? Why am I suffering like this, God? But God was like, my boy, I still need you around. I waited for a car. Like for almost like an hour, there was no car passing. So now the fear instincts kick back in. I'm like, what am I doing here? But I was like, I still want to end this life. Me, I'm tired. I'm tired of everything. In that time, I called my mom crying. I tell her, they've chased me out of home. What am I supposed to do? They even want to, and I said, my son, no, 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 no. So she gave me the comforting words. I left and went back home. From that point, that's when life changed. But as a young man, I want to tell you that the problems I went through back then, it's like as if I was 30 years old. I mean, like I carried problems of a person who is 30 at the moment and everything, but I was still young. Very, very, very young. I did all sorts of jobs. When it goes back to high school, I used to do fitting, though it was illegal. I used to bring in illegal things that were not allowed in school. Though I thank God I didn't do drugs, I didn't do anything, because at that time, that's when a person thinks of, doing drugs and everything. So I didn't, literally. So I used to do betting for people. One moment I remember is there's a time someone gave me, because back then I used to go on the board, someone gave me his money to go and do betting for him. So I went in the evening, I did it. So in the night, the ticket won. I was like, you man, you're not going to see this money. So what I did, I went, I withdrew the money. I told him I told him in the morning when I reached at school, I didn't manage to go. I didn't manage to go. So your paper is, I get your money back, because he had staked like 2K. So I went, I withdrew the money. So life was like that, trying to find a balance in life. I did all sorts of jobs. I came to Kampala. I worked, that was in my Form 4 vacation. So life was so hard and difficult for me, to an extent of me trying to commit suicide. But early Form 5, I got, when Form 5 was about to end the first term, my aunt calls me. She was teaching at Bara Army boarding secondary school there. She goes, do you want to study? I'm like, yes, I want to study. My uncle sends in some small money. I buy shoes and everything. I go in the last 1 week. Life starts from there. When my dad knew about it in my second term, he came back one night, my alarm rang. So I picked the phone. I started reading. So he comes into our room. He says, "Can you pick that person who's calling you?" I'm like, "Who? This is an alarm." Like, "That's your mom. Pick him." He beats me up, beats me up, beats me up. In the morning, actually, I was reading for a paper. In the morning, what I did, because it was almost morning hours, I just bathed. I went to school. I did a paper, very happy, and I was not very happy, but I was putting on that smile that I'm okay, I'm very fine, and moved on and went on with life. So at school, they knew me as, most of the times people used to call me planned kid, for you're very fine at home, you're very okay, but no one knew the pain I was carrying. No one understood the problems I was going through as a young man, you know, and that's why I wanted to bring this story up, for you to understand that most of the times we see people laughing, smiling, and we think they are good, which they're not really okay, you know? So my life, like when I take you back to this little boy growing up, is full of life, full of curiosity. You have a lot of questions, but also growing up in this environment where words were used as weapons. You know, this was on an everyday basis, and I mean every single day. I had things that no child should have ever had in their life. You're useless. You're like a dog. You will never amount to anything. You know, what is wrong with you? You are a disappointment. You reached a point of disowning me at home, you know. Now, when you are young, you don't have tools to separate someone's anger from your identity. You cannot sit down and say this adult is having a bad day or is under influence of drugs and everything. No. As a child, your brain takes everything literally and it stores them as facts. And slowly, I started believing it. I started believing I was useless. I started believing I was a burden. I started believing that the world could honestly be better without me in it. That's why I wanted to end my life. My confidence didn't just drop, it disappeared completely. I stopped trying things because I already knew the answer in my head was, "You will fail. You've always, like you always do." I stopped speaking up because every time I would speak up or every time I would say something, it was used against me. I started shrinking myself, making myself small, invisible. And remember, on the outside, I was this happy boy, you know, smiling, jolly. You're very good. The community knows you. You show up for friends. Like you're doing everything virtually to show people that you're good. You still perform, but you're not okay. But inside, I was dying quietly and nobody knew about it. You get? So life was so complicated for me. And there, the dark moment is when when I believed that ending my life was the only solution. And I attempted, you know, to take my own life, which was not the right thing to do as a person. I'm saying that out loud, not for shock, but because I know there is someone watching this right now who has been in that exact place. Or maybe you are right there right now, and I need you to hear this from someone who has been exactly where you are and came back. So it gets better. I'm a proof. I stayed, and I'm grateful for every single day that I did, because the same boy who was told I will never be anything is right now here, sitting here in this season 2, talking to you, talking to thousands of people about healing. This and that was not something small. It was a miracle, you get. So I want to get to us to understand what verbal abuse really does. I want to put on my counselor hat for a moment, because a lot of people hear the words verbal abuse and say it is just words. It's not that serious. And I need to address that right now. It is serious. Verbal and emotional abuse can cause the same level of psychological damage as physical abuse, and sometimes deeper, because it leaves no visible marks, so nobody believes you and nobody intervenes. The day when Marvin walks in, when his face has a cut, that's when we'll understand that Marvin has a problem. The day when Marvin comes in with a swollen face, that's when we shall understand that Marvin has a problem. But the verbal stays inside within you. So the child suffers in silence. I suffered in silence while smiling at school. So let me break down exactly what it does to us as children and adults. In the moment when a child hears you are stupid, you are nothing, their nervous system goes into what we call survival mode. They are not processing it intellectually, they are feeling it in their body. The heart rate goes up, the chest tightens, their brain says, I'm not safe. And if this happens every day, the brain rewires itself around that threat. Over the time, the child develops what we call a negative core belief. This core belief is a deep, automatic thought that shapes us every day. Whereby someone says, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I don't deserve good, I'm a burden. And it will happen to you because it's automatic, and this is what your brain has believed in. So the child who was always shouted at becomes the adult who cannot handle a conflict, because raised voices take them back straight to childhood. And that happens because this person, when you start arguing, these are the people that when you start arguing, they will leave in you arguing, they move away, they disappear. Then the child who was always told they were stupid becomes the adult who sabotages their own success, because deep down they don't believe they deserve it. This is a person you give an opportunity and says, no, I don't want this job. Who am I cannot get this. Then the child who was made to feel like a burden becomes the adult who disappears from relationships before they can be rejected. So if any of that sounds familiar, it's not a coincidence. It's a wound. And wounds, when left untreated, do not heal. They grow, So I want us to understand the generation cycle. Now here is where it gets even more serious, because verbal abuse does not end with one person. It travels quietly, invisibly from one generation to the next, through behavior, through parenting, through the way we love and the way we fight and the way we raise our own children. Allow me to show you the cycle. A child who grows up in a home where insults are normal, like me, where I grew up, where shouting is discipline, where love exists at the same time in sadness, in that same space, the child adapts. They shut down emotionally. They become either very obedient or very rebellious. Either way, they are hurting. The child becomes an adult, and nobody, no school, no church, no community ever sat them down and said, what happened to you? What happened to you what was wrong? Here is how to heal. No one sits down to ask you that or tell you that. So the problem grows and continues. So they carry the wound into adulthood. They become a parent with no health model. Nobody taught them how to correct without crashing, how to discipline without crashing, how to discipline without belittling, how to say I love you without any condition. That's what happens to these young adults who become parents in the long run. So they do what they know. They shout, they insult, they compare. And this is a parent who will tell you, why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like your cousin? You're just useless. You're just like your useless father. Not because, they're not saying this because it's evil, but because trauma is the only language they were taught. And their child also grows up in the same wound, the same silence, the same emptiness. That's what they have learned. They keep on growing. So 3 generations later, you have a family where nobody knows how to communicate, where nobody knows how to repair a fight, where nobody knows how to say sorry and mean it. We know these families. And you don't know where this stems from, but there's a wound that needs to heal. So This generation trauma cycle continues and it spreads even beyond family into romantic relationships, where people either hold on too tight or out of fear of abandonment, or push love away before it can leave them. Because this was a challenge I went through as a person, as me. I had a girlfriend at campus. I would, every time we had an argument, my job was always to tell her, I'm sorry, we are going to work things out. And one day she asked me after the relationship ended, why didn't you open up? I told her I didn't want to open up because I had a fear that I would lose you, and my relationship ended like that. It follows you into relationship, and into friendships, where these are people that please everyone around them, agree with everything, shrink their voice because conflict has always felt dangerous. Into how people also see themselves, always waiting to be rejected, always suspicious of genuine love, always feeling like they are too much or they are not enough. This is a person you tell, I love you. I can't but me. Nze nemanyi teri anjagala, and you ask the person why, but I'm giving you true love, but there is a wound. So if you grew up in a home like this, I want to tell you this, that you are not alone, and it was not your fault. You didn't choose your parents, you didn't choose your environment, and you did not choose to be hurt. But here is what I know about being an adult. You get to choose what happens next, because you cannot change your past, but you can absolutely refuse to let it write your future. So I want to tell you how I overcame, or how I'm overcoming what I went through, the trauma I went through as a young man. So how did I get from that dark place to here where I am right now? It has not been a 1 minute thing, prayer. It has not been a process, small process, and it has taken me time. And honestly, it is still taking me time to heal. But here are the 3 things that have helped me change my life. Number 1 is I started talking. For the years, I kept everything inside me. I thought silence was the strength. I thought if I don't speak up about the pain, it would eventually disappear. It didn't. It just continued to grow louder. But the day I finally spoke my pain out to someone I trusted, this was a counselor. I remember crying in there. Actually, we were outside. Something shifted. The wound finally got air, because what I know about wounds, they need air to heal. So if you don't give the wound air, it will just go. Number 2, I found purpose. In the middle of the darkest season, I asked myself one question. If I'm gone, who tells the young person sitting in the dark room right now that they are not alone? That question changed everything in my life, and that's why that's why I'm here right now. Because my pain suddenly had a point after understanding that my story wasn't just a wound, it was a weapon against me. So purpose didn't erase away the pain, but it gave the pain meaning. And meaning is what gets us out of the bed when everything in you wants to stay down. Because if you don't have purpose, you'd be sleeping at the moment and being bad. Number 3 is I got knowledge. I'm a professional counselor. I studied counseling professionally and learning how the human mind works, how trauma rewires us, how childhood experiences shape adult behavior, helped me understand myself completely. The lies I'd believed in for years, I finally saw them for what they were. It was not truth, they were just programming. And just like bad software, it could be uninstalled. It took me time, it took a community, it took discipline, but slowly the lies lost their power. And I started hearing a different voice. You are here for a reason. You have something to give. You are not what they said. That voice is the voice I want to be for you. So I want to speak to that one person that is watching at the moment. I want to end this here, and I want to speak to this one specific person watching. As I've said, you know who you are. You've been happy at school, you've been happy in community, you've been happy on social media, but privately something doesn't feel right. Maybe it started in childhood, maybe was words that were said to you that you can never forget. Maybe it is something that you have never told a single person. Maybe you have been smiling so long that you have even forgotten what it feels like to actually be okay. And maybe, just maybe, you have had moments where you thought there was no way out. I need you to hear this from someone who has been in that exact place, and that someone is me. And I came back from it, you know? So open up, speak up, don't hold grudges, because me, I reached a point I no longer have hatred for my dad who treated me badly. I forgave him. I moved on with my life after understanding that my pain, after understanding that, yes, I went through this, but it doesn't define who I am, you know? So I need you to hear this from me as a person who has been in this place and in that place, that you are not broken. You are not too far gone. You are not what they said. As I told you, you're stupid and everything. So just know you just need to step up. You just need to come out and speak about that pain that you went through. And honestly, you're going to be super, super fine. You are the person who went through real pain that was real, that happened, and that was not your fault. And you don't deserve it. Please step up. Your story is not finished. So, as I conclude, I say in season 1 of this channel, I sat down with some incredible people, young politicians doing real work, content creators, and everything, businessmen and women who built something from nothing. Young people who had every reason to quit and chose not to. And what struck my mind is that every single day I hosted a person, behind every successful story was a struggle story. Pain nobody saw, rejection, failure, moments of giving up, and they kept going on. That pattern taught me that something important. We are so many people walking around with hidden wounds and hidden strength that they don't even know they have. So season 2 is getting bigger, bigger guests, more honest conversations, more real stories on love, mental health, purpose, identity, healing, and success. The real kind built on pain and persistence. And I cannot always access everyone on my own. Some people are big shots, and you know the door isn't always easy to open. But if you're the right person, if the right person watches or sees your comment, drop the name of who you want to see on a Moving 256 next time. Let's build this community together. Because this channel belongs to all of us. I would say you have been on this journey together for a year, and in that year, I've seen what happens when real stories are told in a real manner. So please open up, people, because when you open up, people feel seen, people feel less alone, people decide to keep going. This is why I'm here. My name is Marvin. I'm a counselor, I'm a content creator, I'm a survivor, and a Marvin 256 is for you. Is for that one person still smiling on the outside while hurting on the inside. Is for one who has been strong for too long. For the one who just needs that one person to say that you matter. And I want to tell you this: I see you, you matter, keep going. You can drop a comment in the comment section. If you feel like this episode has touched you, share it with someone who needs it today. You might not know their full story, but this might be exactly what they need. As I always tell you, that what kills most of people is lack of information. So this channel is for you, is for everyone. So if you know anyone, just share with them, tell them Marvin is here. Because when we listen to such kind of stories, well, I've not gone into deeper details, but the small I've highlighted for you can really tell you who Marvin has been and what he has went through and what his life has been as a person. So I want you to feel motivated that, yes, I can also be like Marvin. I can also be like person B, because I want to tell you, every tall building you see, wherever you are, or in Kampala or outside Uganda, has a strong foundation. So if there's no foundation down, you will never, even if it's gold, for it to turn out, it goes through a long process. So maybe you're that gold, but you're still going through that. You know, they put you in that, they wash you, and then at the end, the gold comes out. So I want to tell you, if you are watching this, it means life didn't defeat you, so don't quit now. I remain as Marvin, and this has been a wonderful episode. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming through and watch from the start to the end. I appreciate you so much. And this is the start. We are here. And I want to appreciate Dan Soft Studios for this amazing opportunity. Reach out to them on their Instagram, find out their rate card, and you be amazed to get such kind of an experience. We have started this season. This is season 2 of Marvin. We are getting bigger, and better from today until onwards. See you next time. I remain as Marvin. Bye-bye.